All right. We recording? Cool.
Okay, so are you want to lead the show here? You lead. I'm second chair
Okay.
here. I'm the good cop.
Yeah. All right.
Just take a good picture of me. You guys endorsed me in 2012. I was in the middle of the.
Oh, seriously?
That'll be a good angle.
We can send you good pictures.
Yeah.
It should
Okay.
be needed,
Cool.
okay.
Cool.
All right.
We'll make
all
sure
right,
that's
all right.
better. Yeah.
It was like open mouth. All right.
So yeah, why don't we start with just an overview of who you are, why you're running for this seat, and then we can get into more specific questions after that.
Okay. My name is Dr. Thuy Tran, and I am running for House District 45. I wish to bring my lived experience, my community involvement, and House District 45's diverse racial as well as economic intersectionality to Salem, where I hope to make a difference in the everyday lives of Oregonians. I was born in Vietnam. I'm an immigrant. After the fall of Saigon, I was one of those boat people, not the little boat, but a bigger boat. I came over here with my parents at 9. My parents live in Southern California in those high-density housing apartment complex that you see around here.
Yeah.
And I remember playing marbles in front of the apartment in the dirt patches. I remember struggling learning English when I entered 3rd grade here.
Is that how old you were when you moved?
9 years old.
Wow, yeah.
But because I was good in math, that gave me the confidence to succeed in school. That led me to Forest Grove, Pacific University College of Optometry, where I got my eye doctor's degree.
Yeah.
That was where I fell in love with Oregon. Its natural beauty, but most of all, its people, who I found to be compassionate, responsible, and impactful. I opened my eye clinic in the Hollywood district in 1995. I have a second clinic in the Midway area on 122nd and Division. And I've been raising my 3 kids here since. All of whom went through public school, and I was on the public Park Road School District Board, like I mentioned you. My call to service stemmed from my gratefulness for this life that I have. I'm able to live the value that I appreciate so much in my community: compassion, responsibility, as well as impactfulness. So I have deep roots in the area. I've been a Portland Hollywood Lions Club since 1995, living by the motto we serve. We're a singing club.
Oh, you really?
Badly, but we sing every meeting. And through it, we serve the community. We have food drives, we have pancake breakfast for the Hollywood Senior Center, but most importantly, we provide eye care mission. You know, you hear about eye care mission internationally, but we do it here. And March 7, we did one for Friends of Seasonal and Service Worker who've been so affected by the climate crisis, right?
Yeah.
I found a lot of diseases which I should not have found.
Like?
We got them glaucoma, diabetic retinopathy, people that have gone without glasses. Because you know, the heat and everything has affected the crops, right? And services that were present, like Kaiser would come and service our farm worker, well, that got canceled. So the Lions Club step up and help.
Where did you do this? Did you do this
In my office.
In your office?
Yeah,
So you had farm workers. You made it known.
Yeah, they got
could
van
come.
bus to us.
They could come and you did this for free.
Yeah, we did it through Friends of Seasonal and Service Workers. Yeah.
And these people, how had some of them not seen eye doctors in a long time?
Yeah.
And that's why you found
All those diseases. Yeah, and we got them to further care. Yeah. And it varies, okay? Since I've been in the community for so long, sometimes it is elders, sometimes it's working people, sometimes it's homeless people, and this time it was migrant workers. So, our community has a big heart. What else? What else should you know about me?
If you were elected, what would be the first bill you would want to get passed?
I've been on the Family Forward Action Board, and I testify for family and medical leave, but child care and caregiver needs to be taken care of, right? We got to take care of our young one and our elderly population who is growing. So that will be an issue that I will fight hard for. Secondly, I'm on the board of the Metropolitan Public Defenders.
Oh.
And you know that there's lots of folks right now incarcerated without representation. And just at the Metropolitan Public Defenders, in 1 week, we had like 4 resignations.
Oh my
with
God.
each of those attorneys having a caseload of over 100. Who's going to take that up?
So you've been in the center of this storm.
Yes.
Was that recently, those resignations?
Yes, it has been happening because public defender, do not get paid very much.
Yeah.
They work because that's where their heart is.
Yeah.
But the situation has gotten so bad that recently Chief Justice Martha Walter even told the governor, we gotta have a workshop and let's deal with this. People are in jail without representation. And what's important is that that's our safety net. What if one of our own, right? It's expensive to get an attorney, but it's our constitutional right to have counsel. And when we don't have counsel, there's inequity. And so maybe we must stop that. So those are the 2 things that I will fight for. But more importantly, there's money for housing and for addiction treatment and mental health. We gotta focus on how that is equitably used and ask for data and accountability and outcome. Because because of the pandemic, money has came in, right? But how are we using it? Right? How are we using it? Just like I was mentioning with you with regards to 82nd Avenue. That's in our district. Money will be coming in, revitalization, development, but we cannot forget the people that live there, right? I volunteered at the Rahab Sister. Do you know about them? Okay. They use a church on Burnside and 82nd. And Monoma County bring their health van there for clean needles exchange and all that too. But if we develop 82nd, but we don't think about the people that are being served there, what will happen? Are we just gonna sweep them away? No. Also, Join is there, just off a little bit. We got to take care of those folks so that it is safe, not just for the people that get services, but the surrounding neighborhood. When a project like that come into our community, not only does it fix the road, but all those jobs come with it, all right? Quality paying jobs. When we talk about housing issue, right? Affordable housing, we're in a good income help too. And so there are, because it's going to be a public project, we can get internship, apprenticeship, all in there. And we get to focus that. And we need to raise that voice for our community.
I just saw that your opponent wants to join by video, so I'm going to try to add her in as we're talking. So we'll just we'll have it. So sorry to interrupt you.
Okay.
I'm going to send her a new link because I don't think we had one. So just disregard what I'm doing for now.
Okay. On behavioral health, that is my wife works in public health, and she works on behavioral health, and it's one of the most frustrating things she's involved in. How do you feel about how the state has done on its behavioral health mission in recent years?
Well, it passed a law where part of the marijuana money is supposed to go to mental health and addiction treatment. When's it going to happen?
Yes.
Why is it delayed?
Have you been following that?
Yes. Richard Harris, who is the former director of Century City Concern, is one of my endorser, and we want to focus on that. Don't give us things and not fund it. It's like school, unfunded requirement.
Well, but in this case, the money's there, right? The money's there.
So let's use
what I understand,
Why do people have to wait?
Well,
Their
what I
lives are being
understand is
affected.
that it's held up by they can't approve these projects. They're unable to approve the projects.
Oh, okay.
But you're right. Where's the money? That's the question.
Where's the money?
Yeah.
And legislatures can focus the spotlight on that and hold the bureaus.
Have you seen any legislators doing that?
No, but I'm a pretty loudmouth, so I will do that.
Are we good here?
Yeah, I think I sent her the link so she can just join when she does. I'll put the computer there.
Okay.
So, hey Brian, the other candidate's gonna join by video, so I sent her a new link and she can just hop in and I'll put my laptop down there.
Okay.
So she won't really be in the video itself. I don't think.
No, that's fine.
The audio.
You can just have them face.
We're still waiting on her, or she got to click in?
I think we're still waiting. Yeah.
Mental health
So, yeah, go ahead.
is very important. It is scary not just for the kids and the teacher, but it's scary for the parents because at Park Rose there was a shooter incident. Do you remember?
What year was that?
That was before the pandemic,
yeah.
so 2019.
Yeah.
You would get a call and a text that says,
Yes.
meet in the Kmart parking lot, right? And just imagine all of our kids being affected, all the family, not thinking about our teachers even.
No, I've gotten those.
Right? Even the homelessness situation, walking around and seeing people suffering like that will harden our hearts.
Yeah.
Right? How's that going to affect us?
You touched on 82nd Avenue, which there's a lot of traffic safety issues there, but that's also a place where there's been a lot of gun violence in Portland. I'm wondering, how do you, as a legislator, how would you address gun violence, or would you introduce any specific bill to help address that?
Well, let's figure out why gun violence happened. Is it along racial lines? Is it along economic lines? Is it along mental health issues, houselessness? So we got to look at the issues holistically like that.
Yeah.
There's research that shows that if there's more green space and people are treated. You made it, Catherine.
I am so sorry.
Oh yeah, okay.
You want to sit here?
Yeah, sorry about
What?
that.
Did you have parking?
I thought it was on Zoom.
Oh, and then you learned it wasn't on Zoom.
On Zoom. I closed because
Got it.
I had Zoom problems this morning.
Been there, done that.
Oh my gosh, I haven't had
Glad
an
you
in-person thing in forever.
I know. Welcome. Sorry about that.
How do you scooch, one seat over?
We can sit next to each other. We know each other. Hi, how are you?
Catherine and I were PCP, and we did lit drop to encourage people to vote.
PCP what?
Precinct committee person for the Democratic Party of Oregon.
Oh, okay.
Monroe.
Okay,
Oh,
right.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay, got it. Oh, wow.
So
So you're
before our
long,
election-
you're old friends.
Yes, and she's my optometrist.
What?
Are you really?
Yeah,
That's awesome.
she's in the neighborhood. Why shouldn't I support my neighborhood
Oh my God.
optometrist?
This is wild.
Yeah,
That's my area. I live in Hollywood, pretty-ish, like Kearns, Hollywood. So yeah, you're right. My
I just
area
learned
too.
about Kearns.
Yeah,
I just
yeah,
learned
you're
about
by the
Kearns.
Pepsi
Mhm.
place, yeah.
Okay, so do we need to step
yeah.
back now?
Yeah, so, I know, sorry. If you could, be great if you could give us kind of an overview of, who you are, why you're running for this seat, and then we'll go into more questions after that.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, no
Sure.
problem. Sorry about the issues.
So my name is Catherine Thomason. I'm a physician, and I grew up in a typical family, working class, union family, and had a great school.
Where?
School district, outside of Detroit, or a suburb of Detroit, basically.
Which one?
Harper Woods.
No, I know
East
just
side.
enough, and then
Yeah.
and then that it goes away.
Right. And unfortunately, I also grew up in a family which is not too uncommon to have an abusive parent. And from that experience, I learned that I really needed to support and protect people's rights, their safety. I went to medical school in downtown Detroit, and there I discovered people didn't have access to adequate health care. Nobody in my family had been really sick. And here I was seeing patients in the emergency room that just didn't have access. I wanted to take some of them home because they also needed a lot of other things. And through my experience in medical school and wanting to help try to figure out how can we have people have health care. It opened my eyes to advocacy. Not just health care, but anything. We have to push our government to do the right thing. And then we have to defend where we've gotten to. So I took some courses in public health and worked on public health access. I came to Portland for my residency in internal medicine.
We're at OHSU? Or?
Yeah, at OHSU. And helped co-found Oregon Health Action Campaign with Gretchen Gafori, working on healthcare access here. Helped start Oregon Physicians for a National Health Plan. But I also then worked on other environmental issues.
Are you Physicians for
social responsibility? Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know Pat O'Haron?
Of course. Yes.
It's a small town.
It is a small
I'm sure if we
town.
talk for 2 seconds, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We were just talking about him. Another candidate knew Pat.
Oh, good. Yeah.
He's like a saint. Anyway.
He does great work.
Yeah. Sorry.
So I worked on forest issues with Oregon Wild. I worked on climate and health and environmental justice issues with Oregon Physicians for Social Responsibility. And about 10 years ago, I decided I'm just going to work full-time on climate change, and I was the director of the National Physicians for Social Responsibility in DC. And when I came, so I did that, and when I came back, I've really focused on doing advocacy through the Democrats. I felt that if we helped elect people, then maybe we have better push to get people to pass climate change legislation, pass justice legislation. And so I've been doing that as chair of the Democratic Caucus, Environmental Caucus.
I just asked your opponent this question a little earlier, but if you're elected, what would be the first bill that you would want to get passed in the legislature?
Oh, wow. Well, there were 2 that didn't get passed last session, so I think they're the ripest. One is on increasing policy and programs, incentives and such, that increase the amount of carbon that our natural and working lands take up. So our forests, in western forests, can take up more carbon than tropical rainforest. And we need to let the trees grow longer, and we get more timber that way if we end up cutting them. And agricultural mechanisms as well. No-till agriculture, you don't have to use as much fertilizer, you use cover crops. And all of those things, just like many solutions for climate change, help in other ways. So you reduce the amount of water that's needed for irrigation and water. In the listening sessions I did across the state, water is the most important impact, quality and quantity of water, of climate change.
When you did listening sessions when?
Last fall.
As part of?
The Environmental Caucus.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're in the Klamath Basin?
Yeah, all of it, right.
Do you know what the issue was with those bills, why they didn't pass? If there were specific concerns about them?
Well, the governor's executive order on climate has moved forward a variety of policies, and what it came to with this particular policy had a lot of public access, a lot of work on it, and the decision was made that we needed to have a better study, because you can't say you're absorbing more carbon unless you know what your baseline is. So particularly in agriculture, we don't know that. So what happened in the legislature is that the Oregon Farm Bureau felt like they weren't consulted adequately and didn't want the bill to move forward. And in legislature, there's give and take. So some bills are thrown under the bus to get other things passed. So we did pass farm workers overtime, which is incredibly important. And there were other things that were done. So I think that it was a decision that there was some opposition, and maybe we should just move forward on other bills.
Yeah. Besides policy at the state level, we can also affect changes locally. For example, the industrial corridor that's on Columbia, like Corning and such, they are emitting toxin into our air. and we are all linked by the air that we breathe, right? And so we have to focus light on how our industry is contributing also. And you see, as you drive through our city, that our roads just weave through our community, right? Besides CO2, there's also black carbon, right? That's emitted from our transportation vehicles. And our schools and our kids live near these highways, right? What can we do at the state level to take care of home right now? For example, Harriet Tubman, right?
Oh yeah, no,
they put in a state-of-the-art air filter so that the air inside is healthier. Why cannot we do that with other schools? Why can we not do that with our senior facility, right? Because you know that type of toxin can affect cognition, our students' ability to learn, as well as our seniors' health, mental health. So both will be good, but we need to focus on long-term as well as short-term action that we can take right away.
So we touched on gun violence a little bit right before you got in here, and I'm curious to hear, I don't think you were able to finish your thought, but gun violence is a big problem in Portland. There's a lot of, bigger policing issues at play too, but I'm curious, if you were in the legislature, how would you want to address, or would you want to address gun violence or other kind of criminal justice issues that are in this area, in your district?
Well, certainly. So, guns kill people. And we have a license to drive a car. We need to have a license to have a gun. And all people should understand that that's an important aspect of gun ownership. And we learn how to drive, we have to learn how to handle guns safely. So I think at that level, it's really important for us to do adequate background checks, to have education around it, to encourage safe storage. Because unfortunately, as happened with my own family, a gun in the home can lead to suicide. And fortunately, the gun in my brother's home was adequately locked up, and he couldn't. His son couldn't get it. So suicides are the biggest loss of life from guns itself. But there's so many other things we need to do in terms of criminal justice and the issues that are, we need to have adequate schools and engagement so that people aren't looking outside for other communities, so to speak, so that we don't have, that young people are engaged and that they're engaged in community centers and that we're providing adequate schooling. So that so that people have hope. I think a lot of issues are that there's not adequate wages. People are making it by if worrying about the next paycheck to pay their rent, and that causes so much stress and concern that people think, well, I'm just, crime seems to be a better way, or selling drugs may be a better way. So we have to look at it in a larger arena. So the issue of gun violence is multifactorial on the streets, and we need to have mechanisms to provide guidance and opportunity for people who enter the world of crime to avoid it.
What did you both make of the defund the police movement, both as a movement and as a plan and as a slogan for Democrats? Give me your thoughts. When you heard that?
I'm in the military. I am not afraid of uniforms, and our police protect us. When something happens to us, by your home, at our school, who will you call? So it's not defunding the police. We should add funds for better training. We should add funds so that the presence of police can give us security. as mentioned about gun violence, my children went to Park Rose, and that's where the shooter incident is. But in our neighborhood at Normandale Park, right, a peaceful protest became an incident, right?
Oh my God.
Right? So it's about community, it's about livability, it's about jobs. It's about housing. If you're living from paycheck to paycheck and you have housing insecurity or food insecurity, 5% of Park Rose School District students are in the McKinney-Vento homeless program. How are teachers going to teach these kids? How are these families taking care of themselves? How is the mental health of our children?
Right. So in terms of the police, you're more money, more training.
More training, and where will we support the police and the community?
With the other...
Yes, but defunding them, decreasing their presence.
Yeah.
Who will we call?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Who will
Catherine,
protect us?
What about you?
Well, I think that the concept of defunding is not the right way to talk about it. I think that we are asking too much of the police. I think that developing the Portland Rapid Response for mental health crises is the absolute right way to go. And I'm delighted to hear that. I hope it will get funded across the city. It's very successful in Eugene. So there are certain aspects to it. There is racism. We know that. I grew up in Detroit. I grew up afraid of people of color. And until I saw Michael Moore's movie that showed me, oh my gosh, I'm afraid because I'm seeing all this on television and people are scaring me. The Bowling for Columbine. Yeah. So that made me aware of what my own prejudices were and, my own fears. So the police have to go into any place that they're called. And it's scary. They have to make decisions very fast, and training is essential. They're not getting the right training. They just got a whole series of training on how to deal with protesters by making the protesters out to be the bad people. That's not good training. That's really awful, because I have been a protester for a long time. And when I go and protest, people laugh at me, but I go up to the police and I say, thank you for being here. I'm glad that we're going to have safe passage here, and I appreciate your presence. But we also have to deal with what they're taught and root out and take care of and try and educate those feelings of automatic response. They're not logical necessarily, but they're automatic responses of fear that have to be overcome.
Besides training our policemen, we also need to provide them with resources. I was at an Ending the Hate, especially Asian hate, event, and the Department of Justice was there, and the police department was there, representative, and the API community was there. And I found out that when a police knock on a door, the occupant only had to say Vietnamese or Cantonese. And then they now have the resource to get a translator on the phone. So that communication can start, understanding can start. And so defunding, let's talk about what you want to do with the money that you're going to take away from one area and put it in another. But just that little change, there will be now connection between our police force and the people that they serve. So can we, at the state level, focus more on communication and support so that we can create a peaceful community, right? Where people support each other.
What do you have? I have a question about trash. What do you got?
I have a couple more police questions, if you don't mind.
Do it. No, I didn't want to break.
Okay,
I didn't want to break the chain.
I have two. I'll start. The first one is in June of 2020, if I remember correctly, Portland Public Schools removed all school resource officers, or the officers who are in the schools. They pulled them out. Did you agree with that decision then, and do you feel the same way now? I guess, Catherine, you can take it for
Sure, I agree with that decision. I think that, again, certain people, particularly black people, people of color, are treated differently in schools by some people. And by having an officer on site, having that sense of presence that to some people is a threat, is not conducive to good learning. I think you can have, locked doors and have people be buzzed in so that people aren't coming in onto the campus without permission. But I think that that presence wasn't helpful in our schools, and therefore I agree with having them not be in the schools. Now, if we had an extra counselor in each school, that would be fantastic. I had a housemate, and her daughter was a freshman in high school, and took the bus down to school, public bus, and came home crying one morning. And what happened? And she was threatened at the bus stop because she's black. And she calmed down. She got over her event. I took her to school, but we have to make sure that we do have safe passage. And should that age group still be in school buses? That may be something to think about. But in general, we have to have adequate safety, but we also have to have appropriate levels of security for our students.
Yeah, and Twee, same to you about.
I do not agree with removing that service from our high school. When the police presence is there, Park Rose is a very diverse community. We have administrators and teachers of all different ethnicity, colors, Our students are very diverse. But if we don't establish the trust between our law enforcement in a gentle way, how are you doing today? Everything going fine? You can tell me if something's bad. We're going to raise kids that are going to be afraid of people in the uniform. I'm in the Air National Guard, and we are told now to don't go to the grocery store to inform our base in our uniform because of anti-military sentiment. But as an Air National Guardman, we're there to serve. And so we're already having to hide something that we should be proud of. Our police officers put their lives on the line all the time. And the school is a very safe environment for a relationship to be established, for trust to be developed, so that students can come to the police in that environment. But if they don't have exposure and they get into an incident, there's going to be fear, right? If your first incident with the police is being put into a car, police car for some reason, how would you feel? How would your family feel? But if you come home and say, oh, officer, blah, 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 it was a great conversation. So the police have shown up to even the Vietnamese Community of Oregon's Tech Festival with their vehicle. I even organized a rock wall from the National Guard so that those relationships can be built in a safe environment. We don't want to be like a communist country where you see uniform and then you run and hide, right? Even our military try to go and do humanitarian abroad or engagement. The uniform shouldn't fear. We have to get past that, and our kids need to be taught that there are safety nets out there for them to reach. Because the police just isn't about arresting and crime. They do so much. They support the Camp Rosenbaum event with the National Guard, where we bring kids from inner city and give them a place for them to stay. We have medical personnel to take care of them and all that. But it's to engage the community. I don't believe in fear. I believe in communication, and I believe in engagement. I'm not going to teach my kid to see that police cars, that uniform, stay away from them. Because when we need our safety net, who will we call?
You can
Want to get more of that?
No, I think time-wise, you should probably
Are you sure?
go with your.
Okay. Do we need to
yeah.
ask just some basic quick things? How much money have you each raised, and who's your biggest donor?
I've raised about $20,000, and I have pledges for about $4,000 more. And the largest donors have been personal friends who've given me $1,000.
Yeah.
Tweet?
My biggest donors have been families and friends also.
And you've raised?
I've raised $12,000.
Okay.
Yeah, more are coming in, but I just started dialing 2 weeks ago.
Dialing for dollars?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been down to the legislature, and are you ready for this? I mean,
Yes, I asked myself that question.
It's a really hard job that doesn't pay a lot, and you're dealing with some seriously intransigent people, right? I mean, how are you going to be, we need somebody, Barbara Smith Warner was incredible, right?
Yes.
What are you bringing that's going to get this, to keep this system working? The legislature didn't work on climate. It just didn't work. And so that's why we had to have executive orders and rulemaking, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, quick, sort of succinctly, more succinct than the question I'm asking, what do you bring to this body that's going to work? What's the skill?
Well, first is relationships. So having a relationship with, I've met with many legislators in my work over the last 4 years, and getting to know them personally, finding out where their values equal my value. So they care about water, for example. We can talk about water.
You're talking about rural
I'm talking about rural legislators and Democrats and Republicans.
Yeah.
You know, that.
So you've been in the rural areas, you've talked about water.
Right.
How do they perceive you there? How are you, I mean, how do you do on the dry side?
Well, it's, I've talked to Coos County commissioners, I've talked to Tillamook County commissioners, I've talked to, we were working on a timber severance tax.
Mm-hmm.
So we went and did regional meetings and tried to have a conversation and develop a relationship. But you have to be very proactive and have a relationship and find values you can agree on. Try and figure out what needs to be brought to bear. And a lot of bills are bipartisan. And then there's some that I'm running because I care about climate and justice. So there's going to be some where I'm not going to get them voting on this bill. But I'm going to try. So, and develop that relationship.
Relationship is very important. Communication is very important. We must agree on values. For example, our children, our veterans, right? Our community, our air quality, our water quality. I was just in a conversation with Senator Hugh Frederick. He lives in the Lower District area, and he said 94% of the time they work together very well. But when theatric happens, people walk out, right? That's when it's in the limelight.
Yes. Yeah.
So let's expand that 94% where everybody works really well, and I invite the media to come and interview the legislature when they're working so well, and let's expand that 94 to maybe 96, 97 and communicate. Keep the theatric out of our Salem so that we can get more work done.
Yeah.
So climate bills in particular have been among the most divisive in the legislature. So how would, I'll start with you, Catherine, how, on a more concrete level, how do you bridge that divide across the aisle with something that has caused a lot of division in the legislature in the last
And just to add, I think the climate bill was the thing that prompted Eastern Oregon to start talking to Idaho. I mean, I think it was. I mean, I think that's one of that was it was so divisive that anyway.
Yeah.
Just to add that her question.
Well, It's getting people on board. So getting the Farm Bureau talked to around this particular bill, and they got the amendments they wanted. And again, I think that particular issue was a trade-off. And because we have to support people who are working on the land, they grow our food. We have to support all people. And farmers they don't make scads of money. It's not like, the huge timber companies that don't even live here and that 64% of them are stockholders,
right.
basically. So that's a different thing. So trying to engage and bring people together so that they're working together. I think the biggest opposition has been an understanding, like around the building codes, is that the Northwest Natural Gas, they don't want to see their product be not in the building anymore. And so they sow a lot of dissent. It is not just a Republican-Democrat divide. It is dissent that is sown by business interests that have a profit bottom line. And we need to look at, what kinds of transitions are we going to have, because we can't continue to use natural gas.
On that front,
I don't agree that we should blame all business, okay? For example, PepsiCo, they were local, but they moved out to Clackamas. They signed on to the Paris Accord, right? And they are striving to get their semi-fleet to be electric. They're having a hard time not wanting to use virgin plastic, and they want to use recycled plastic for their bottles. All right? This is sincere wish to go green. So we need to find partners and businesses that supports green and gather them and work together with them. Because we think all businesses are like that. No. Okay, we're all linked with the air that we breathe, the water that we drink, and we're all linked with our life. So let's ask the policy, and when we're deciding on policy and pushing forward, what are the commonality? All right, the workers in Hermiston and the workers here in Portland, what do they need, and how do our policy affect them?
Yeah.
Right? So commonality, values, sitting at the table, very important.
The specific thing on Northwest Natural, I've actually been looking into this a bit. In 2019, Northwest Natural and OEC and the environmental community were sort of all together trying to push climate legislation. And then if you talk to Northwest Natural, they'll say, all of a sudden a couple of years ago, gas was out. Like gas was like a clean fuel for a little while, and now they're out. Like everybody's trying to get away from gas. What do you say to gas users? Like I went down and visited the biggest nursery in Oregon, and those guys they were trying to be super efficient. They're running their greenhouses really well, but they use natural gas to heat these greenhouses, and they say it's efficient. It's more efficient than going electric. It would be very costly to go electric, and if the grid goes down, they lose everything because gas doesn't go down. What do you say to? Is gas is it really a culprit, and what do you say to the users?
Gas is a terrible culprit.
Okay.
So when gas is released into the atmosphere, it is 86 times more potent than carbon dioxide.
Methane. You're talking about.
Yeah, that's what natural
that's
gas
what it
is.
Yeah.
That's what it has. Some other impurities in it, but it's mostly methane. Over 100 years, it's still 20 times more potent than carbon dioxide. So there's, in the interim, until we get off natural gas, in the interim, we need to make sure that we're not leaking anywhere. So when you burn natural gas, it turns into carbon dioxide. And in a factory, in a electricity production, it produces half the CO2 as coal. But they don't count all the leakage from the mining, from the first well drilling, from the absolute releases to keep the compression stations firm. They release gas on purpose, along with a lot of other toxins So I've worked on natural gas issues in Colorado, and it's bad for your health. It's bad in your home.
Do you have a gas stove?
I do not. I took gas out of my house.
When did you do that?
When I bought it. My furnace was
Induction?
old.
Induction?
I have an old-fashioned electric
Yeah.
stove.
Did you have a heat pump?
I do have a heat pump.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it provides me air conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
So
You had an old furnace that you replaced?
I did.
Yeah.
Right. If I had a new furnace, I wouldn't.
Yeah, I know.
Replace it.
Trust me, I've been going through this right now.
Right.
What do you say to my buddies at the nursery who need natural gas to heat the greenhouses?
As a business owner, okay, we need to take care of our workers. We need to produce. We need to have backup. I use electronic medical records in my office. If my electricity goes down, my phone does not work, my functioning stop, basically, until we find a stable source of energy. We must be open, but as Catherine mentioned, let's make it safe for us. How are we going to check on these leaks? How are we going to protect homes that have old gas furnace? Like my office, it's 19, I don't know, I think it's 18 something. And there's
too,
this
yeah.
Really?
big
Yeah.
machine, right? But it goes through the water radiator. Okay, so it's cost effective, and we supplement it with other electric heating devices to warm our buildings too. But let's protect ourselves from existing harms that may occur. Let's keep on working to find renewable resources for us to provide our energy. So it's not an either or at this time. It has to be a both until.
I think we need redundancy in our systems. So if the two major electric companies now have to add renewables, and we
Yeah,
have a
yeah.
timeline for that. So what we need is redundancy in the system. So we need to build community solar so that there's some baseline electricity backup when we have other systems down, when power from elsewhere is not working. So there are mechanisms to do that. We need to protect our electric lines. Sometimes in certain areas, maybe they need to be buried. Costs a lot more. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's a system we need to go to.
But that's what changed with gas, is people realized how bad it was through
Yes.
the leakage from the system and at the wellheads.
And the recent article yesterday in New York Times talked about the really high levels of methane, just astronomical levels that, they've been using values at the EPA that
Oh, God.
aren't true.
Yeah.
They were just picked.
Well, you
It's
saw-
leakage
we
levels.
can now map methane leakage with satellite imagery, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's shocking.
It's shocking.
Yeah.
So I think we have about
Yeah.
a little under 10 minutes left, so
Oh, yeah.
this last question might
Please,
be,
yeah.
and then we'll do the fun question that we always do.
Yeah.
But so this is more of like an overarching one. This is my assessment, but please correct me if I'm wrong. I get the sense that on the big political spectrum, you are perhaps a little more to the left than Twee, but not saying you're at all but that's kind of the vibe I'm getting from the answers about business and climate and policing. But I'm curious between the two of you, how you view sort of the differences between the two of you in terms of your policy beliefs, or how do you compare, how do you contrast with each other?
Well, I feel that we need to be cognizant in communication with who will be affected by all kind of policy, transportation, climate issues, workforce issue, jobs, housing. Who will be affected? Okay, our community is very diverse, and we need to bring that diversity of racial as well as economics to the conversation, and then work together. I do not like to be labeled right or left, this or that, because we have to work together. You don't want people to walk out, right, and not even have the conversation.
Right,
So
but
let's
for
connect it.
helping voters understand is what I'm trying to, for them to understand. They see these two candidates on the ballot. Like, how should they distinguish between the two of you? Not asking you to make a big label, but how should they determine?
Look at what we have been involved in, okay? I fought for family and medical leave. I fought for justice. I've been on the school board, right? I even swore to give my life for my country. Who has been involved and how has she give to the community? And how could we open dialogue for all of this, not just be a one issue focus?
So I think that Twee and I have very similar values. We care about people and we want the best and to protect those most impacted. I think that we're just solid on that. There's just no difference between us on that. I feel that also the business is essential. That's people have jobs. People want to start small businesses. I think that's all great. I think when we have corporations that have way too much power, that we need strong regulation. We need to make sure that the insurances are providing the kinds of care we need. And that's the role of government, is to make sure that people are being protected. And that's protected in policy. And I also feel that we have not taken good enough care of the 25+% of people in Oregon who are on the Oregon Health Plan, meaning they are at close to the federal poverty line. So we need to lift up a lot of either services for rent support. We need to lift up wages and make them move with the cost of living that is happening. So I feel that if you were to label, I would definitely be in the arena where, I would probably get the endorsement of the Progressive Party, which I haven't heard from yet. I think that looking at the systems that we have that need to help all the people, that I would be definitely in that arena to do those kinds of things.
With focus
Is
on
it-
who will be impacted the most.
Yeah, this keeps going through my head. Is it hard for you Catherine, you're committed to being a liberal and diversity. Is it hard for you to run against somebody who, if elected, might be the second Asian American in the legislature?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Twee and I had a conversation before I filed.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
But I hope the community will pick the one that will represent us, okay? It's not about skin color or race, but we both have leadership ability, me with the business, the military, the community. How will we bring that?
So you
All
talked
right.
to each other before you filed?
Yes.
Wow. Do you wish there were 2 districts for you two?
Yes.
But you've got in anyway.
I ended up getting in anyway. I have been working on climate, the IPCC
Okay,
report.
so that's
the reason.
that's your animating thing.
That's the reason I did
Okay,
it.
all right.
So, I
Well,
think.
I hope to work with Catherine.
Yes.
She's the chair of the Environmental Caucus of the GPO. All right? And we're
This is the most interesting one of these in this sense that I've been in.
Yeah, I agree.
What about you?
Well, this is my first interview this year, but compared to 2020, Okay, so we have there's another
go ahead, sorry.
group. No, it's fine. They've come
we'll
in.
right,
we'll
that's
talk,
fun
I'm half
question.
Sicilian, I'll
Do you
talk
remember-
forever.
Do you
The
remember
fun
the phrasing
question.
of the fun question? You were just in the...
Yeah. So
Okay.
this is the fun question.
Yeah.
It's now, the pandemic may not be over. It may be another, window of hope. You two would know better. But what was the event or the thing that you did that brought you joy in the sense that you finally felt like this thing might be ebbing? So the example is one of our editors here, Aaron, was like, he got to go to a Blazer game and sit in the stands. There weren't masks everywhere, and he didn't feel like he was going to get sick. Like, what's the equivalent for you both? Like a situation it can be. I mean, what we've heard from is a lot of things people say, like, well, I got to see my parents, or, a parent who has, say, COPD, you know what I mean, and is vulnerable.
Yes.
So what is there anything that comes to mind? And remember, this is a fun question. You have to.
I think
Yeah.
going back and seeing a play
Yeah. Okay.
or
which
seeing
one?
music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there
You
one in
know.
particular? Or?
I went to the London Review and saw some amazing jazz.
Oh, fun.
In
And it
London?
was- no.
No.
There's a club
Got
downtown.
it. Right.
Yeah.
Can you tell I haven't been out in a while? Anyway, go ahead.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go. So yeah, I think
That's
that's
it, yeah.
that's probably it.
Cool. Entitled.
I was able to go and see my boyfriend's mom, who's in a care facility, and she was able to see my smile. The previous visit that her son got to see her, they had to stand outside in the snow
Yeah.
talking to her on the phone. So being able to be in her room, was yeah.
That happened to my mom too. My brother had to stand outside and talk on the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
No.
just awful. That's just
Yeah.
awful.
It's nuts.
People, the older people,
It's
just
nuts.
have no clue of what's going
Yeah,
on.
I know.
You know.
All right, we gotta clear out here.
All
No,
right.
thank you.
Sorry,
That was really fun.
great. Yeah, so sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about the miscommunication before about, no, it's okay.
No,
It's
no.
totally fine.
I bet you were just. Was that
I know.
just